Rose apple jelly is one of my favorite apple jellies to make with the floral component, just because it looks so beautiful. Now, generally speaking, we don't think of a rose as something that we would eat, but the rose petals are full of antioxidants and flavonoids that reduces stress and depression, encourages weight loss and decreasing the LDL cholesterol. It also helps with digestive issues and menstrual issues. So there's a lot of benefits to eating rose petals that you wouldn't realize. You want flowers that are free of any pesticides, and it's a really good idea to wash them if you're unsure. The first step is to remove the petals from the flowers. I like to keep them as whole as I can, just because it looks so pretty in there. I'll need 2 cups worth of flower petals. These ones were given to me from a friend of mine, and they're not as fragrant as I would necessarily like. The more fragrant the flower is, the better it's going to be when you actually use it in your jelly, because you're going to get more flavor out of it. If it smells nice and sweet, you'll get that floral sweet accent in your jelly. I begin with 4 cups of apple juice, 6 tablespoons of pectin, and half of a teaspoon of butter. Then I'll place this on the stove and bring it to a boil. Now that it's started to boil, I'll add 4 cups of sugar, and I want to add those all at once because I need to be able to stir it to make sure that it doesn't scorch. After I get that sugar stirred in well, then I'll add my roses to it, and I need 2 cups of the rose petals, and then I'll bring it back to a boil. Now that it's come to a boil, I'll set my timer for 1 minute, and I stir the whole time just to make sure that it doesn't scorch. I can tell that it's a full rolling boil because even though I stir, it continues to boil. I'll then fill my half-pint jars with my jelly up to 1/4 of an inch of headspace. Headspace is the space from the top of the food to the top of the jar. I like to place equal amounts of rose petals in each of the jars if possible. It's fun to play with the different colors of roses and see what different combinations I can get. If I get a little extra in any of the jars, I just use a small ladle to take it out. It's a pretty easy fix, and then I put it in any of the ones that are maybe a little bit lower. I then use a clean damp cloth to wipe off the rim of the jars. This just makes it so if any of the jelly got on the edge, that it won't interfere with the seal. The petals are floating right now, but there's something you can do right at the end that makes it so that they're dispersed throughout the jelly. I'll then place on my lids and rings until they're fingertip tight. I'll then process these in my boiling water bath for 10 minutes if at sea level. I'm at 1,200 feet, so I'll do it for 15, but I won't start my timer until after it's come to a rapid boil. Now that my timer's gone off, I'll turn off the heat, remove the lid, and let it cool for 5 minutes. And then I take them out of the canner and place them on a heat-resistant surface about 1 to 2 inches apart so that they can cool quickly. I'll leave them there for about 24 hours so that they can get a nice seal. After that, I'll store them in a cool, dry, dark location and use them in the next 1 to 3 years. I know that they have a good seal if the lid has depressed down in the center, and if it hasn't, then I put them in the refrigerator and use them right away. The way that you get those petals to float in the middle is you actually have to disturb the jars a little bit. I wait until after the seal has gone down, and usually a little bit longer than that. So it's been half an hour at this point. And then I just kind of gently disrupt my flowers. At this point, they're mostly just going to float up to the top. But every 15 minutes to half an hour, I'll come and I'll kind of shake up my jar, wiggle it a little bit, turn it upside down, which of course next time we'll be turning it right side up. And that just makes it so that it ends up being suspended in the liquid. There's like this special window of time that you've got to be flipping it at. And if you miss that, it won't move because it'll be too set. But if you do it too early, it'll just float to the top anyways. So I just keep coming back to make sure that I don't miss that window. I don't have very much for a taste tester, but I do have a little bit. Okay, I want to make sure that I get a piece of that rose in there. So you definitely get the sweet apple. And then there's just a little bit of that floral sweetness behind it. Remember, the more fragrant your roses are, the better they're going to taste. This is just a really fun recipe to do. I really like to do this one with the kids because they have so much fun pulling off those rose petals with you. And then they look so pretty later.